this is again pretty high level around the first quarter. If you're building a team from scratch, right, you're hiring people, you're putting them in place, training them, getting the tools in place, getting them ramped up. How do we send emails or send LinkedIn or make phone calls? You know, the first quarter is kind of like putting all that in place, getting it started. The second quarter, you're getting meetings. You're basically ramping people up towards hitting quota consistently, and quota should be defined primarily as the number of sales accepted meetings, sales accepted X, sales accepted opportunities, sales accepted leads. There's a lot of terms for it. So they should be hitting quota at that point in terms of, pretty typically for a mid-market SaaS company could be 8, right? 6 to 8 to 10, kind of depending on complexity, this, that, and the other. It could be higher than that for very transactional things. It could be lower than that if it's, you know, unique, super enterprise. Q3, right? So this month's kind of like 7, 8, 9. You are seeing that pipeline grow. Hopefully you actually see some deals come in. Like, it's kind of lucky. They're not consistent yet. Might be 1, 2, 3. There's some number. There's something there. But no matter what's happening, you're seeing consistent progress of the pipeline, right? You started out with sending emails and you got responses, then you got meetings, which didn't go very well. Then you got meetings, which did go well. And then you started to get pipeline and stuff like that. So you're always seeing progress, but you're not seeing the revenue start to close consistently till, again, probably around, could be, you know, near the end of the first year, Q4, could be after first year. It's something like Q4 to Q6. Again, there's some of that variability is based on the challenge of your market, based on, did you get everything right with the right team from day one? Did you have to switch anyone out? The sort of factors. Let's see here. But what we have seen is it not unlike Salesforce.com, where this was created. And Salesforce went from, added an extra $100 million in a few, I think it was like 4 years, just from Outbound. But you know, I've worked with companies, whether it's small startups to, you know, again, like the Cisco, Cisco, Oracle, Red Hat types. But you can create predictable pipeline, and whether it's like multiplying the meetings you get, or maybe you've tried and failed for a year, like Pemberton, and then you got it off the ground and saw $1 million in the first year on the way towards more. Or Acquia is a great success story, because love them because they were really willing to share so many great details, right? They're in the Impossible book, and a lot of people aren't willing to share, which is fine, or they don't really have the details. So, but they added an extra 30 million in 3 years and helped them go public, and then they were just sold to Vista for $1 billion last year. But they started, Acquia was like a $40 million-ish inbound driven company. They wanted to add outbound as another layer to help them drive towards 100 million in revenue. And I like their story because they took 6 months with 3 prospectors. There was 2 in the States, 1 in the UK. 6 months kind of got the systems dialed in, started to see some data, some traction, and then they said, you know, we're going to hire another 30 or 40 prospectors because we saw the data, we saw we can make it predictable, it's working for us, and then we're going to multiply it. So there's kind of 3 basic models. There's a lot of ways to do anything, but here's 3 common ones in outbound if you want to get started. So the first one is, again, you transfer or hire 1 or 2, you know, a small team of dedicated prospectors. You need at least 1 dedicated person to see the magic happen. 2 is better because when you start something new, better start with 2. That buddy system, competition, friendly competition. And honestly, it's just lonely out there, especially working virtually without a buddy. So you hire them to get started. If you have a manager, great, even better. Number 2, hire a no ego manager, someone who, whether they've done it before or not, they are a manager, but they're willing to do the work first, to be the first SDR and make it work. And then once it's working, hire a team behind them. I would do this every time, but again, if you can find the right person and budgets and someone who's actually willing to do it and so on and so on, it's not quite as cookie cutter. There's a great guy, you know, Scott at Acquia. Scott Wong did this. I did this at Salesforce. So happens, you know, just an option. And the third is hire an external service. Could be an SDR as a service. It could be, there's a lot of them out there. Obviously predictablerevenue.com does both, helps companies build their own teams and do outsourced to get them off the ground, at least in the States. So I think we see, again, what works and what doesn't. So it's not about the right model, like what's always the best, it's about what's right for you. It's kind of saying you want to get into shape. Well, for some people, they should spend more time on their diet. For other people, they should spend more time exercising. It's like, what's right for you? Everybody is a little bit different. And again, if you're enterprise, if you're like a Microsoft or Cisco, or like, it's a little bit different story because of the complexity of the oftentimes budgeting and kind of role definition and internal politics and other things. But again, happy to talk about that here if we have someone on and has a question. So last bit here on some mistakes, internal team mistakes. Again, you're hiring your own people, you're building it up. Dabbling is one. Hey, let's just hire an intern for a couple months, see if it works out. And if it does, then we'll invest in it. So you kind of you have to really go for it to make this work. Because if you hire an intern or someone part-time or someone who's just like super junior with no guidance and it doesn't work, it doesn't tell you anything. If it works, okay, then it tells you something. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't tell you anything. Second, I mentioned comp design, not having a minimum deal size or paying just for meetings. Like 2 boo-boos, no-nos, don't do those. Third, round robin, which is kind of related to not having territories. So especially for prospecting, you got to have some kind of segmentation or territories. Round robin, again, I'm not a big fan of round robin, except in very specialized situations, which I see very rarely, but you need some kind of segmentation and territories. And when you're hiring an external partner to do this for you, to help you start it or do it, common mistakes, writing a check, hey, we just sent some money to someone, they're just gonna do it all. It still takes time and focus from you and your team to work with them and to get this up the ground, to adjust and to adapt and learn and so on. Again, this mistake of treating inbound and outbound meetings the same, right? You start to get some outbound meetings from a service and you just don't really know how to handle them. And so they don't work out and you blame that provider. And sometimes it might be their fault, but sometimes it's your fault because you got these meetings, they're just different. And the salespeople didn't know they weren't properly ready to handle them and they didn't go very well. The last thing is this kind of belief, which is, yep, our business is fine, our sales process is fine, we just need more meetings and we're ready to grow. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes, honestly, it's not. So kind of a reality check on, are you really ready to grow? Sometimes that's a yes, and sometimes that's a no. And doing outbound can help you discover, are you ready to grow? Maybe you are, maybe you're not.